My name is Jeff Holtzapple, and I'm the general manager at the Haas Factory Outlet Chicago. We are the local Haas distributor for Haas CNC machines. On behalf of Haas Automation and the HFO, I would like to welcome everybody to the 2015 HTEC conference here at the College of DuPage. A tremendous thank you has to go out from us to the COD staff. Their tireless efforts have really made this event a fantastic thing, and we're certainly indebted to them. But a special thank you goes out to Bridget McFarland. She did a terrific job. Her organizational skills and tenacity really kept the planning team on track. So Bridget, thank you so much. Thank you. Haas Automation is well known for the CNC machines that they build, primarily for industry. Less is known really about their other contribution to an area that we know as manufacturing education. Over 15 years ago, Haas developed the HTEC network, and today there are over 3,000 machines worldwide in schools. 1,800 of those are here in North America. And each year, over 50,000 students are trained on Haas CNC machines throughout the world. In 2001, the Gene Haas Foundation was formed, and it's a foundation committed to one goal, and that is to bridge the manufacturing skills gap by helping to inspire and train CNC technicians. Although the foundation has committed and presented millions of dollars in scholarships throughout the world, today we would like to recognize COD students Phil Bednars and Marcin Wolak, recipients of scholarships from the Gene Haas Foundation. Phil, are you in the room? There he is. Thank you very much. Thank you, Phil. Okay. For these events, Haas donates a control simulator, and that may be located out in the hall. Basically, it's a Haas control that you can set on a desk, and we use it as a training tool in our HTECs throughout the country. And so they've donated one, and the requirements today to win the control simulator was you had to be an educational institution, you had to pre-register, and you have to be present in the room right now. So I would like to draw for that. If you'll give me a moment. Got my handy Haas hat here. Hopefully it doesn't fall. And the winner is Jeff Hines, College of Lake County. Congratulations, Jeff. Jeff hosted the HTEC 2 years ago at the College of Lake County. So thank you, and congratulations. And I'm going to wrap this up, and next it's my honor to introduce John Cronenberger. John has been the Associate Dean of Technology at the College of DuPage for the past 6 years. He has over 25 years of experience in the private sector in research and development as an engineer and an engineering manager. He has combined his private sector experience with 13 years as an educator, most recently here at the College of DuPage, where he oversees the technology subdivision, which includes manufacturing and welding. And over the past several years, the manufacturing and welding programs in the technology subdivision have experienced significant growth in enrollment. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Cronenberger.
I was asked to moderate a roundtable today, and we would like to have some questions that are very relevant to our topic, and which I think kind of germane to all of us is the power of education and industry and the partnership. So I'd like to introduce everybody here on our esteemed panel when they get up here. And basically, the method we're going to use today is I'm just going to ask a extremely profound question, and they will answer. You can certainly sit down. Certainly sit down. A profound question, and we'll try and go. And if we have time, we will allow time for anyone that wants to ask a question as we go along. But we'll see how it goes. And then after this, we'll go back to our seminars. So I first would like to introduce Tessa Bergman. And Tessa is currently the Human Resources Manager at Signode in Glenview. She's a value business partner to COD and has been for a long time. She was instrumental in creating an apprenticeship program as well as a very healthy partnership with College of DuPage. And I do want to note that she is also a graduate of the College of DuPage. Next in line is Greta Salim. Greta is the Associate Director of Education Foundation Services at the TMA, or Technology Manufacturing Association. She brings a wealth of information from industry and provides a conduit to educators everywhere. And I might also add, she also is a graduate from the College of DuPage. Thank you. Our next up is Dan Corelli. Dan is the tool room manager at Manor Tool in Schiller Park and has over 30 years as an educator and industry expert. He also was a journeyman tool maker and die maker. So thank you, Dan. Next up is Mike Chester. Mike is currently the president of Dante LLC. Dante provides consulting to investors that are looking to invest in the manufacturing sector. Mike provides 38 years of experience in the manufacturing industry, and he was the former CEO of Berkey, up in Arlington Heights, I believe. Thank you, Mike. And last but certainly not least is Mark Hibner. Mark is the advanced manufacturing instructor at Palatine High School and the Applied Technology District Chair for Township High School District 211. Previous to his career in education, he worked in the industry as a CNC operator, as an apprentice design engineer focusing on plastic injection molding. Thank you, Mark. Okay. So the first question, and I think the way we'll just do this is we'll just go in order the first time, and then we'll go in the order coming the other way the second time. And then we'll see if there's a third time. So the first question I have for all of you are, what are the skills and attributes that make a student employable, and what abilities should they develop to become promotable as they grow in their careers? So if you want to start, Mark.
Well, from the high school perspective, I think the first thing is we got to make sure students are showing up to class on time, and second, showing up to class every day. So I think, when you look at employable skills, when I try to recommend a student for an internship or a job, it's really those soft skills. Like, are they respectful in class? Are they working hard? They seem to have that aptitude and positive attitude in the classroom. So I think that is the first and most important thing, because I will not recommend a student unless they don't have those basic soft skills. Second, I think, is we're just trying to get the foundational manufacturing knowledge of safety, and also, we really focus on the CNC machining and the manual machining. So we're trying to give students that employable skills so that when they go into a company, they could be safe. And then also know a little something about machining.
Mike?
I would agree with Mark. The soft skills are very, very important, hard to measure, but as an employer, we're all looking for people that we can work with. First, we're going to look for, do they have any basic accreditations that are third-party. NIMS is an example. It doesn't have to be, but they can show any basic training so that we know that they are safe around machines. That's going to allow us to hire them. And then when the abilities to be promoted, I think, really go into what Mark was talking about, things that, unfortunately, maybe you have to stress in high school or even in college. You would hope parents would have done it, but the bottom line, show up on time, be polite, work well with others, things that maybe everybody takes for granted, but as an employer, those are the people that make a difference.
Okay, I would say math skills, geometry, knowing CAD, CAM, learn all those things. Critical thinking, that's important, being able to problem solve and thinking out of the box. Being able to work good as with a group of people, being able to be a student as well as an instructor. So these are all skills that, I mean, it's asking a lot, but it could be developed. And the more the potential employee has of that coming in, it just makes my job easier. Otherwise, I have to develop those skills. And also being humble, knowing that this trade's bigger than any of us, so we're not going to have all the answers. And being able to share what you know. I'd say those are important things.
I agree with everything that's been said so far. I also know a lot of manufacturers, when they're doing an interview, will have parts and pieces on their desk, and the applicant that picks up that part and is looking at it to see the quality of it, see what it does, ask those questions, the ones with that mechanical aptitude are the ones that they are looking for. You know, you really have to have an interest. Are you going to be on the floor and you're going to see a rag up on the floor and you're going to pick it up and go to that extra step? Those are some of the other things that manufacturers are looking for.
So I also second everything that was said so far. You know, any trade in the manufacturing industry, it's a collaborative environment, so you do need to be sure to be a team player and to have good communication skills and to just get it. So it is very important to know why your company is in business, what is your strategy, and how do you support it, what is your function to support it, and how do other people rely on you. And when you can speak to those points and when you're a good team player and when you can support other people around you, I think that really makes you stand apart from the other people that might be applying for that role or for promotional purposes. As far as, you know, looking down the line for promotions, continuing education is very, very important no matter where you're at. So whether that's the training seminar, staying up to date on innovation, coming up with new ideas, being that strategic thinker is going to, you know, again, make you stand out from the crowd of the other people that might be applying for those positions.
Very good. Thank you. The next question is talking a little bit about the future. Looking forward to the next 5, 7, 10 years, what do you see the employment needs in the manufacturing industry, and probably more specifically, what types of jobs, what kind of demographics of jobs, that sort of thing? And if you don't mind,
I'll
with
start
you.
again.
Yeah, you did so well on the last one. We'll start with you.
Okay. I think just the more innovation obviously comes to mind, so staying up to trend, it's going to be the highly skilled positions that are definitely going to stick around and going to be more and more competitive. So the more advanced your knowledge is on whatever your focus is in manufacturing is going to be your best bet. I would stay on top of technological trend and communications as well, making sure the documentation piece, that you understand how those systems work, as collaborations are usually also electronic between people at your company and then across the globe, and cultural sensitivities to that as well, because your product is either going to somebody across the globe or we're merging our talent network where, you know, issues of immigration, things like that, you know, they're coming here, we're going there, so making sure that you have a good understanding of how to work with that as well. Mm-hmm.
I think that's all great. I don't know if I can really speak on that, so I'm going to let you guys handle that. You know, I know technology is advancing constantly in our manufacturers, so that's going to be a huge step. Computers and everything that they do now. But I'm letting you guys.
There's an old saying that a TMA member, John Winsler, used to tell me when my days at TMA, and he always says you have to have the hands of a toolmaker and the brains of an engineer, and that's more true today than it's ever been. I'd say in the next 5 years, you're going to have more specialty going on in the business, more special type occupations. But what you're going to really have to prep for is being able to keep on training, be a lifelong learner, and just keep that process going, because it never stops. I've been in this business for almost 40 years now, and to tell you the truth, I'm learning something every day. And if I don't learn something every day, then something's wrong. So it's important that people understand that, and that they keep on building their skills, whether it be in soft skills or hard skills, learn new software, new ways of programming, new ways of machining. All that comes into robotics. So you just go on and on and on, but you got to be good, or at least have exposure in all of them, because at some point your employers are going to be asking for that. And it's trending more in that direction. What I do on a daily basis is people ask me what I do, and I says it depends on when I walk in the plant. I can do one of many things. So you're going to have that multitasking aspect of the business too. So it's interesting. It's an exciting time if you like excitement.
I think employment needs are going to be across the board. We have a very gray manufacturing workforce. There was a void created. I think there's a 15, 20-year void that is needs to be filled. Quite honestly, it needs to be filled. So I think everything from machinists, tool and die makers, mold makers, model makers, metrology, right across the board, anything that supports manufacturing, there's a great need for the next generation of workers, because this country kind of moved away from it about 20 years ago. We were going to be completely a service sector economy, and it hasn't worked out so well. And I think everybody across the board, schools, government, has recognized the need for, we need to make things again. We need to manufacture here in the country. It provides the type of jobs that you can raise a family on, and continue to learn and grow. As everybody said, those skills are going to be needed. But I think there's voids in every factor of manufacturing technology today that need to be filled, and there's going to be a continued emphasis in robotics and automation, because that's what's allowed us to be competitive with the low-cost labor factor. Is the U.S. has to stay on top of technology, i.e. robotics and automation.
From the high school perspective, I think with our business education and business partnership, our goal is to make sure we meet the needs and the demands of the industry. So I don't know what's going to take place in 5 years. I mean, I hear mechatronics is the big word that's being thrown around a lot. So hopefully with the goal of education is that we're making changes to be able to meet industry standards and the future. So hopefully, I know the capital cost is large, so that's why it's even more important to have that business education partnership to help us adapt and stay current.
I just want to add a few things as far as you were talking about there being a gap of people investing in a manufacturing career, and that's certainly true. And we also have the baby boomers that are starting to exit the workforce as well. So I know currently at Signode, we have pretty close to 50% of our workforce that is eligible for retirement. So that's a lot of opportunity. So as far as job security, it's great. So also speaking to areas of advancements and promotability, if you like to take lead, I would definitely take an active interest in that and making sure that you partner up with mentors to get yourself positioned for those openings that will be opening up.
Very good. Thank you. Very much in conjunction with that, I think as far as closing this gap, one question I would love to ask, and I think it's a tough question, is how can we work together for a way to attract underrepresented groups in industry, which I think is going to be very important to us filling that gap. Mm-hmm. And we'll just go back the other way.
Sure. You know, at our high school, what we're trying to do is working with our counselors. So what we've been very fortunate at Palatine High School is have that great support. And two counselors in particular, they want to start a cohort of just a small group of students that are going through the manufacturing program and be able to help them, be able to fill out, financial aid for, to go to community colleges. So I think what we're trying to do there is grabbing those kids that, once again, have that aptitude and that attitude, but might come from hardships. So, at Palatine High School, we're on a free reduced lunch. We're a Title I school, so over 50% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. So we have a lot of underrepresented groups there, but this is one way for us to inspire kids to get out of that poverty and help nurture them and, be able to give them opportunities with internships, apprenticeships, and jobs and filter them through to higher education. So that's our goal.
I think probably the best conduit is through the high schools and working with high schools in partnership to reach all the demographics. And in a lot of cases, we had a conversation at lunch, we even got to reach past the high schools and get down to the junior high and the middle schools and attract everybody early on, introduce them, and then the attraction will be natural if they're so inclined. We just need to introduce what we're doing and continue to tear down the old stigmas and myths of the outdated manufacturing. None of that exists today. Those companies are gone. If you're still alive in the U.S. and doing manufacturing today, you've got many skill sets, and you're typically pretty automated and niche-y in what you do, and we've got a lot to offer. We need to introduce that to students, and they'll make the right choices, I think.
I think it has to be multifaceted. You have to look at working with the high schools, junior highs, even down elementary, as well as looking like community-based organizations, church organizations, things like that. Any type of group, and expose it, even churches. I mean, there was talk when I was, once again, going back to my TMA days, when we were looking at actually outreach to some church groups throughout the region to try to see if we could get people interested in manufacturing, then show them some sort of a career path or roadmap to how to get from point A to point B. And that's where a lot of cooperation's got to come in between the community colleges, associations, the CBOs, the community-based organizations, all that. It's all got to be kind of planned out, and it's got to be balanced. And it's got to show that people can have a path and do outreach and show success stories. That's the most important thing, and have those people go back and be witnesses to those populations that you were addressing here.
So some of the things we're doing at TMA is we have a Women in Manufacturing group to attract more young ladies into the field. We've also been doing a lot of Girl Scout STEM events. We've been at a STEMapalooza where there were 400 young Girl Scouts there to show them there are women engineers, women that own manufacturing companies, what kind of parts and pieces and things that women are involved in. Also, going out and talking to some of the schools that if you're bilingual, you're from a bilingual household, very beneficial in manufacturing. We've got a company in Schaumburg that's pushing, we want bilingual people because we've got a site in Costa Rica that you can work at. So getting our president of TMA, Fernando Ortiz, out in there to the classrooms to talk about how he grew in his company. He started in shipping and receiving, he was delivering parts, and now he's vice president of a manufacturing company.
I think that, what we're doing today is obviously very beneficial, but a lot of my partnership with COD was with apprenticeship programs, so I'm a big fan of exposing students to workforce applications while they're getting their education and really seeing how it applies, how you utilize it. It gets a chance for them to ask us questions or their instructor questions and really build that coaching and mentorship portion of their development. So that's very, very important, and just seeing the manufacturing environment, but also seeing what it really takes to thrive in manufacturing careers. I think, again, there's that stigma. It's not this low-skilled labor that's going to, that's targeted for those type of careers. If you want to have a career in manufacturing, you need to be very skilled, you need to be very talented, you need to have a good head on your shoulders and a good education, and you need to be committed to that from a very young age, because the agility and aptitude builds over time. It's not something that you can just develop overnight or read out of a book. You need to have a lot of hours in to that trade before you really get highly skilled in it. So it's important to start young. So we try to do a lot of promotions at a high school level, or even before that. You need to work with mom and dad, fix things around the house. It starts very, very young.
Very good.
Can I just add one?
Absolutely.
One really neat thing that our district started a few years back is they started this GEMS event where it's the girls in engineering, math, and science, and it's for 4th and 5th grade girls. And so on that day, it's an event. It's on a Saturday. They'll have usually over 100 girls register for that event with their parents, and they'll have them over to one of the schools, and then what they'll do is they'll have all female engineers, mathematicians, scientists there doing hands-on activities. So it's been going on for a while now. So right now when we look at with our Project Lead the Way program, about 7 years into it now, we're starting to see our Introduction to Engineering Design course. Usually the classes are filled with half female students now. So it's just kind of neat because it's changed that perception, like we were talking earlier, just at a younger age of parents and of female students.
Very, very good. The last formal question I have, I think is kind of an overarching question about how would you define the education-industry partnership? What does that look like? What should ideally look like?
I think we got to be in each other's homes all the time, so they need to come out to our facilities, they need to understand our managers, they need to understand our operations, and then I also think, and the students need to be invited in, like, as I said, and vice versa. So we need to come to events like this, we need to educate them, we need to provide a lot of support in getting them ready for their job search, any ways that we can provide insight of what it takes to make it. Is certainly our responsibility as well, and making sure that we support any way we can, just by being there, by being at events, but also probably some financial partnership helps as far as investments in programs that are very, very beneficial, donations to things that maybe we no longer have use for as far as from an organizational standpoint, and that schools can really go a long way with, so that's also very, very important.
Yeah, I think manufacturers need to start thinking about opening their doors more for tours for students, internships, job shadowing. I'm kind of that bridge through TMA's Manufacturing Association to get there, because schools don't know always what your company means. I mean, might be Berkey, but they don't know what Berkey does, and Berkey does to reach out to them. So we try to get more schools to be involved in their community and do those kind of things.
Well, I think the important thing is everybody's got to work together on this thing. And one of the good things, I was at, the TMA had a manufacturing day last Friday, and I was there. And one of the things that I was talking about was just careers in general to the students. But I was also telling them how they could maneuver their way through all this. And that's what's important. That's where I think the industry education partnership comes in. Because, I've been on both sides of the fence, so it's easy for me to jump from one side to the other. But for somebody that's not, there should be some sort of a conduit or plan. So if I have a student at, let's say, Lake Park that wants to take an internship, how do I get him into an internship quickly? Where's my connections with the companies? What are their needs? So once all this is, and believe me, the employer's got to come to the table as well as the college. The colleges or the schools can't be running out to the employers. They got to come, they got to tell what they need. And it's got to be a two-way street. Everything everybody says is true. It's got to be that way, because if you don't do it, it's going to fail. It really will. I've seen this happen before many years ago, and you've got to have that cooperation, and it's something that's got to be worked at. It's not something you could do today and then forget about it for a half a year till it comes back up on your planner or on your iPhone for another meeting. So it's got to be an ongoing thing in development. Your most successful programs, if you ever really investigate it, are the ones where they have that cooperation.
I think the education industry partnership is about as best I've seen it right now. Seems we have momentum. I mentioned there was a void created about 20 years ago. And I've seen high school after high school drop their program right across all across the northwest suburbs. There were a few that stayed fast. East Leiden High School, I think, was in Streamwood. But for the most part, you know, I made a living in the Elmwood, or Arlington Heights and in Schaumburg areas, and in all that areas dropped, all those schools dropped those programs, and they just went away, and they've all restarted. And we've got champions. We've got people like Mark Hibner, Frank Holdhouse at Leiden, Wiederzach at Rolling Meadows, but all these schools that had programs that dropped them and then brought them back on. I see more momentum now than I've ever seen. I'm seeing more cooperation with high schools and the junior colleges. I think that's significant, and there's still a tremendous way to go, but there is I would say a renaissance of manufacturing that's reoccurring, a resurgence because of this void. Employers are desperate. Before, we couldn't really attract the attention at the high school level, and I think today that's different. I think high schools are looking for some additional curriculum to offer besides the traditional, you know, college prep. And so I see a greater partnership than ever, and it's encouraging, and hopefully it continues to go. And as Dan said, it can't be just right now. And what I would blame employers for is they get a little lazy too. You know, they get enough people and they kind of fill the void, and then they quit trying to partner. So you got to stay the course through the whole time. And the more job shadowing opportunities that we can offer, the better off we are. We need to show what's available out there. Many times, it's just people aren't aware of it. You know, what's a tool and die maker? Well, he makes a crescent wrench. Not really. You know? But if you weren't exposed to that, if you didn't have a family member, and if somebody didn't show you, how would you know? So I think we owe it to the next generation to expose them and let them come to the choices. And I think there's some great choices to be made if we present what we have.
Well, I agree with everything that was said, and I could basically summarize the same thing. But one thing I would add is that industry education partnership, one of the biggest things is when you run into a challenge as an educator and you don't know where to go, you got to have certain people that you could call, and really you respect their opinion and their advice and their guidance. I remember I had a conversation with Jim Philippek, you know, at the beginning of implementing our program. I was getting tons of information, and I think maybe it was Jim that said, you're going to get a lot of well-intended information and advice, but it's not necessarily the best advice. So it was great. When I had that conversation with him, I was having a lot of sleepless nights. Mm-hmm. And then he connected me, because I was very concerned about the manual machines that we were going to purchase. And I had heard from several different other education institutions that, hey, we bought these machines, but you know what? I spend more time fixing them than kids running them. So he turned me on to Terry Iverson, where I bought some Clausing, manual machines, and they've been great. But I think what I'm trying to say is when you're in a tough situation as an educator and you're trying to sort through this information and you got to give your administration and get that support from them, you got to have go-to people. So, that connection, that business education partnership is so critical in making sure that your program is going to be successful. It's going to have the right machines. It's going to have the right curriculum. So that's what I think is, that's how I define that.
Can I add one more thing? I think it's important that the high schools look to the community colleges for support, and also the employers. The community colleges, you've got to sell that you got services here that can't be duplicated. So if I'm not going to have Rhodes Scholars coming in to work for me. Okay, I'm going to have people that maybe are not college bound, maybe they are, maybe some went to college for a few years. But nevertheless, the thing is that if they have trouble with reading, if they have trouble with math, if they have trouble with any other area, there's resources here at the college that can't be matched. They can't be matched by anybody except the colleges, and your tax dollars are paying for them anyway. So I'm not speaking to employers here, but if I was, I'd be telling it. It's probably something they don't want to hear, but it's the truth. The truth is that there's support systems out there. So if you look at that, if you're a high school instructor or affiliated with a high school, look how you can match in and be a conduit with that. And then, I mean, what I'm saying is if you have students you know that they may be marginal, how you could feed them into a system that gives them the support that they need. Because I know they have it up at, I know a few to college, I know they have it up at Lake County, and definitely know they have it here. So that's all I have to say about that.
You know, I wanted to say, I'm just so absolutely impressed with the thoughtful, insightful answers you guys have given here. I think in some cases it's maybe stated the problem. Maybe we don't have all the solutions, but I think you guys have really recognized the real problems. I thank you. At this point, we have a little bit of time, and I was wondering if anybody in the audience might have a question. We don't have microphones, but we all have good voices, and we can translate. So I'd like to open it up for any questions you might have for the panelists. Yes, sir.
You were talking about you started up an apprenticeship program. Oh, thank you.
Oh, we do.
And I've now got an industrial partner wanting to start one, and honestly, we have not done it before. Where's the best place for us to start with the government apprenticeship certifications, or how does that work?
Yeah, we didn't officially get ours accredited, so I didn't get to that point. But, you know, you don't really need to. I mean, I think it's very beneficial, but you don't need to get started. So what we did is define, you know, what is it that we need to build in-house? What are the areas? We did a rotational program internally, so we made sure to get them exposed to all areas of operation. Again, speaking to understanding what makes us profitable, why, you know, how information transfers and getting them to be team players. And also understanding where their strengths are. Sometimes they might gravitate towards one thing, but they're a lot better in something else that they've never been exposed to before. So I'm a big fan of rotations. I can go through a whole nother conversation with that. But so we defined that, and then we do a discovery meeting. So James and I sat and we took a look at his curriculum and what matches, and is there a program that we can make together. They're very flexible in creating a whole curriculum if you wanted that, or if you just want to have like 3 or 4 courses that you want to sponsor the student to take. And work with them and their schedule to see, you know, when they can go to school, when they can come back and get their hours in, and what level of flexibility you can provide as an organization. That's all things that you need to figure out. But just start having that discovery meeting together as a team, and you'll come up with something that works for you. And it's always going to be a little bit different for every organization, and it's going to be tailored to what your end goal is. But getting that started will get you leaps and bounds into that initiative. And then when you got a good process going and you got a couple generations of students coming in and graduating out of it, that's when you can start looking at getting it certified, if that's something that you want to do as an official apprenticeship.
Do we have any other questions? Yes, sir.
I'm not from industry, but I'd like to make a comment. I'm from Bradley University, Iqbal Sharif. We have something called a practicum program with Caterpillar. It's a concept of earn while you learn, and that attracts students. And basically, like you said, the lady on the right side, it depends on the industry you're dealing with. Each school has its own, and each industry has its own, but there needs to be a articulation agreement between the company and the school that enables the student to get practicums or hands-on experience working with engineers, working with factory personnel. It's one of the best things to attract and bring young talent to manufacturing. I spent 30 years in manufacturing, and I feel that we owe it to our profession that we provide such opportunities, make that links between industry and academia where young generation can come in and benefit from existing industry. Our workforce is the best in the world. Only thing is that we are not tapping it fully. And if we do that, we won't see anything going outside the shores. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question specifically for the educators. I'm new to education, teaching machining. I'm working with some students who are definitely getting things like micrometer measurement, caliper measurement, speed and feeds. And then I got a couple students that are just not getting it. I mean, we can discuss it over and over again, and people that's just, they're there every day, and they're willing to put in the time, but it's hard to reach them. Any suggestions for reaching these students that are having trouble so that they can retain basic skills like measurement, mathematics, so they don't go out and fail in industry?
That's an easy one.
That's a great question, and I struggle with with that same thing too on a daily basis. I think it's just, as an educator, we always have that great commitment, and we always want to see those kids succeed. So I wish I had that answer for you. I just don't. I think being an education, you had to be very patient, right, and passionate. And so, with that persistence of being an educator, the best thing is just spend time with that student. And there's only so much time in the day. We could build resources, and some things I like to do is have extra assignments. And now every one of our students has one of these. Just try to push out information to them, and they could push it back to me through that Schoology app. So it's that differentiation. So some students aren't, no matter how hard you try with the micrometer, I tell you, some students just struggle with the measurement. And then what I've seen in our short term of running the program is they might be there first semester, but they might not be there second semester because they might find out that they might be successful in doing something else. And so I hope that answered your question. I know, this is a tough one.
I was going to go here first, and then we can certainly go.
My question is, again, maybe geared towards education, but how interdisciplinary do you think you can make this and still have it be something that's integral to the experience as a whole? I mean, I can buy a 3D printer at Home Depot. So it seems that no matter what you do, what field you want to be able to go into, being able to manufacture something at some level is going to be important to everybody. The same way that being able to interact with a computer in a meaningful way is going to be very important to everyone who manufactures something. So at some point, this becomes as interdisciplinary as English or science. How is that shaping up here?
Well, right now at our school district, we're trying to make connections because it's always been separated departments, right? Math has their math department. We have our applied technology department and science. We're starting to make connections at our school. Like for instance, we have one of our teachers in the Science Olympiad. And so what was neat about that connection is all of a sudden the science teachers who didn't have the tooling or knowledge to be able to build products for those competitions, now they do, and it's one of our teachers. So now it's almost like that connection, that educating. So I think we're starting to make better connections between our applied tech and science department. Our next thing is trying to make connections with our math department, and I think in another pathway to have is called building construction, where we build homes and sell them. There's a course called Geometry and Construction, and it's a math program that was generated in Colorado. So we're trying to make connections with other departments with the math discipline. And I really wish, I brought our math chair down and I showed him Cartesian coordinates in action. All the G codes, M codes, the programming. I mean, how awesome is this? And he's like, okay. Right? And it's just, I'm going to continue pushing the envelope of trying to make those connections, and that interdisciplinary it's there. It's so awesome, and we just got to keep on, fighting that fight and making those connections, and hopefully we could create those, a machine tool technology math class someday, right? So I think that'd be so awesome. So yes, I agree. It could be very interdisciplinary.
I was going to say, Mr. Philippek and I have had many conversations on the analytical methods you need for, machining and things like that, and how to best do that. And, does it have to be the math department that does that? I don't know, but I think it's a great topic. Yes, sir.
I wanted to give input to the gentleman's question about math. And as a segue, I wanted to just revisit my summary of the answers the panel gave to the first question. What are you looking for? Soft skills, math, geometry, critical thinking, out-of-box, mechanical aptitude. The framework and the infrastructures to that is actually math. Math gives the student the framework and to get everything rolling. So once you get him ready in math, then his critical thinking, you can grow that. And of course, the soft skills is something that you have to do all the time. The problem with math being taught in most institutions is that it is being taught as a science and not as a skill. You talk about math, you tell the student, I'm going to give you a toolbox, and I'm going to show you on each problem that you might face which tool you use, just exactly as a machinist or any workmanship specialist needs to do. Like, why do you decide to use the Phillips screwdriver instead of a straight screwdriver, and so on? You don't need to know how an electric drill is being built so that you can use it, right? You just need to know how to use it, when to use it, and what type of tool you're going to use with every surface you are actually drilling. Second point that I wanted to visit is the answer to what do we need to do? And the lady, she gave a very, very brief description. We need to be in each other's homes. And probably the best thing to do is what the gentleman over there said, what we call on the other sphere part of the globe, there was a course called on-job training. It's a part of the curriculum, and the student needs to finish that. They go to the manufacturer's facility, and we as supervisors go with them, but we do not interfere. And they are being mainly evaluated by the engineers and supervisors over there. And that would be very helpful. And thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have more questions?
Yeah, we're not. I don't think I need a mic, dude. I can talk pretty loud.
It's getting recorded.
Oh, it records it? Oh, I should be quieter now. Sorry. I guess I really wanted to say it took me years to even figure out this department was here. And I'm kind of bummed out about it because this is going to be my last semester. But I just ran into some other girls that were having issues with counselors, and counselors recommending them for certain classes that, just don't even really make sense. And I feel like I had a big issue with that myself, was counselors steering me in the wrong way, or, I think they didn't even know that the welding department was over here for a while. And I don't think that it's only College of DuPage. I'm sure that, colleges are getting bigger everywhere. I'm sure everybody has this problem. But I think people forget, counselors need to be included in so much of this, because the departments are talking, and then they're just kind of being left out of things sometimes. And they're the ones that really, when parents aren't around, we go to the counselors to, steer us to what we're supposed to do. I don't know. And it'd be nice if they were really on board and knew the in and outs of this whole college and what was available to us, because it would have been nice to be pushed in this direction, seeing as how I obviously can't sit still. I think teachers and employers, we should also include these counselors in on this, because for a lot of people, those are our parents. They're helping us make our life decisions, and it's really difficult when they're not involved in everything and they steer you the wrong way, because the semester can make the difference. So that's what I had to say. Did I say it loud enough?
Just fine. Thanks.
I was going to point out a resource. The gentleman from the Palatine mentioned about the school and qualifications. I'm not sure if everybody knows that any of the schools in Cook County that the Museum of Science and Industry will offer free admission to come to the museum, go to their exhibits. If your school is one of those that qualify for the funding, I think Google is the one that sponsored that. As far as the young lady talking about the counselors, I remember my counselors was more or less trying to match the expectation of my parents, you know, trying to say, well, you really don't want to go into manufacturing. That's kind of yesterday's news. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to say about education for the next generation is that even at younger levels, and I think some of the panel, I don't know if it was Mike, but brought this up, that going down into below high school, the other cool program in the city of Chicago is the science educator program that the Museum of Science and Industry also has, where they will take educators and bring them out of the classroom to the museum and send a replacement, so there's not a bad offset. So they are actually trying to teach science teachers how to teach science, so it's in a better format than what I got.
Another resource. Okay, you can hear me, good. The Gene Hounds Foundation partnered with Edge Factor, and Edge Factor does the most excellent movies about showing manufacturing in the absolute best light. It does really cool stories, human interest stories about people in manufacturing that are changing the world. It shows nice shops, beautiful machines, white coat kind of facilities and all that. And it's virtually free to education if you go to the Gene Haas Foundation and get their reimbursement for the Edge Factor stuff. And they make a CD that they want the students to take home to show their parents. So that's huge too. And then they also have curriculum that backs it all up. The other thing I wanted to say too was I did a lot of research a while ago. I was starting a nonprofit to get kids excited about manufacturing before I went to work with Autodesk and just give it all away free now for you guys. But the term I came up with that actually resonated well with parents was that manufacturing is the best insertion into the middle class of America of anything. You can go to a 2-year college. Most of the students have it paid for by the time they end. And then they go out, and now the paradigm has shifted. They used to say that if you went to university, you would end up making almost 50 to 100% more money than somebody that didn't. And they were including 2-year colleges and high school graduates. Now it's actually reversed. You get out of university, you usually have $60,000 to $70,000 worth of debt. You get out of community college, you have none, and they never catch up anymore. So that's one of those kind of old laws that parents had kind of in their head. You go to college, you're going to be more successful. It's just not true anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we had some over here, right?
I just wanted to tune in as another student perspective. I've been going to COD for like 3 years, and I only like found out about this department, like the welding and the machining, like a year and a half ago. And I did it like completely by chance. I was signing up for class and I said, welding, that sounds like a fun class. And I took it and I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. So what I'm thinking is that like going like off what they were saying about like introducing machining and skilled labor in at a younger age, like I didn't know about it before now. And I think it's very important to get people informed on like the fact that it does exist. So I'm thinking like as a student, it would have been nice that like in middle school, if instead of having like to take music classes, I would have had to take some other skilled labor classes as well. Like I know in high school, most places like force you to take like a home economics class, take like a tax class, so you like have an intro to like, you know, what's going on in the real world, but they don't ever like give you like a shop class anymore. They don't like make you take anything in like the engineering department. And I think they should, because that gets you like knowledge that this does exist. Maybe it's what suits you better than like sitting in a classroom the whole time, for 7 hours a day, not doing anything with your hands. And if it was possible at all, like in high school and middle school, to bring in like a basic like machine class, like here's how to do measurements, here's how to do basic metallurgy, and give them like kind of an intro, like let them know that it exists. Like 2 years ago, I wasn't even really aware like machining was this huge of a thing. Like I didn't even think about it because I didn't know about it. And like no one in high school talks about it. They're all pushing to get you to like 4-year universities to graduate, and become like an English teacher. But we have a lot of English teachers. We don't have a lot of machinists. So what my point is that like as a student, I would have liked to have like been forced before I knew what was good for me, like be forced into taking one of these classes. So I was like, okay, this exists. Like maybe I didn't like it at the time, but now I like have the knowledge that it's there if I want to go into it. And so I think like as like a high school teacher or even like a middle school teacher, like colleges and businesses could like interact with these other schools and, encourage them and push them towards making a curriculum where like it's a necessary class. Like take just like a quarter or a semester of machining and, metalworking or woodworking, anything of the sort, just to let people know that it exists and that they can, think about it and decide for themselves if they're really interested in that sort of thing. And as a student, that's what I would personally want.
If I could, I'd actually put a little plug in for something going on here in November, so there's Manufacturing November month too, I think. And it's the Manufacturing Expo that we do. I think this is the 3rd annual Manufacturing Expo month, and which we bring somewhere between 200 and 300 high school students in and try and experience a lot of the things that we've seen today over in the other building. So I'd like to give you kind of a round out for what still is offered the rest of the afternoon, but before we do that, I want to thank first the audience for just absolutely great questions, just totally relevant, totally pertinent to what's going on. And thank you so much to our panelists here for giving us insights into what they think and where it's going. But thank you so much. Thank you so much.